The Tuscany of holiday brochures and sunny summers in one of the most beautiful parts of Italy. And the Tuscany where police and politicians are trying to combat international money laundering in what is Europe's biggest textile town, Prato. There's a Chinese mafia court case and murder too, all of it worthy of a man who lived nearby 500 years ago and gave his name to the struggle between power and politics. Machiavelli. We're in Tuscany, home to the Italian Renaissance, where there's a clash between two ancient cultures, one right here and the other thousands of kilometers away. Welcome to Beyond Borders. Prato is just 23 kilometres from Florence, but for many of its inhabitants, it's the other side of the world to the place they once called home. There are officially 30,000 Chinese here, but authorities say illegal immigrants could take that to 50,000, which is just under a third of all people in Prato. Is a community trying to overcome mistrust on all sides. The police are looking for unsafe factories and undocumented workers. The owners of the big complexes are miles away, untouchable, the police believe, back home in China. There are as many as 6,000 such factories in Prato that import textiles and other fashion components from China, assembling them cheaply and selling them across Europe. It's called pronto moda, fast fashion. And the garments have a fashionable Made in Italy label.
Documenti ce li avete? He doesn't know anything.
Do you believe him?
I don't believe him. I don't believe him.
A recent governor of Tuscany has said that many of the businesses have links to organised crime.
Questo è quello.
And at the time of writing this, a criminal trial in Prato involving Chinese citizens has been halted after key documents went missing. Many of those accused of extortion and drug dealing have fled to China. Our calls to a number of businesses for a tour of their premises go unanswered.
Oh, you can try to talk with them, but they don't want to answer you.
If he's not here to work, what is he doing? And so the poorest workers are the target, the overlords out of reach. He won't reply to that. These are two communities keeping each other at arm's length. Those who lived in Prato's Chinatown before it started to change about 30 years ago take us on a neighbourhood patrol.
E loro sono venuti in massa, come hanno fatto in tutto il mondo. Cioè le comunità cinesi non per nulla esistono le Chinatown, voglio dire, no? Un motivo ci sarà, perché ai cinesi di integrarsi non gli interessa.
They don't like the washing hanging from balconies, the rubbish. One man complains that the Chinese at his golf club don't play by the rules. Italians drive small Fiats, says another. The Chinese, Porsches.
Guarda la roba, quello è proprio cinese, lo vedi?
How do you know?
Ma si vede dalla roba che buttano. Cioè io non comprerei mai una cosa del genere. Cioè.
Vedo che le generazioni giovani che vanno a scuola, che studiano, che hanno una buona educazione, si comportano come noi pratesi, come noi italiani, quindi è segno che c'è verso fare un'integrazione.
No, è vivo.
They find a vagrant, but not the Chinese rough sleeper they were expecting. This man is Moroccan. Opposite the golf club man's house, there are posters and phone numbers for sex workers. In a nearby park, the neighbourhood watch point us to some Chinese men playing cards.
What is the game? You speak Italian?
We don't know if they're gambling for money. The neighbourhood watch people tell us they probably are. They also tell us there have been some violent incidents around here involving gambling Chinese and the locals, but they clearly don't want to talk to us. We've heard Italian, although they say they don't speak Italian, but probably best, considering what we've been told, what we've been warned, probably best if we disappear. In the same park earlier, an exercise class brings out the more well-off.
Che amici italiani? Tutto amici. Io piace Italia, la pizza, questo tutto buono.
There's a feeling, we're told, that the gap between communities can be bridged, particularly when it comes to younger people. At this school, they're being taught about the Italian Constitution. Do you think their families really don't mind if they fit in?
Se mi avessi fatto questa domanda 2 mesi fa avrei detto no, alle famiglie cinesi non importa, ma abbiamo avuto degli incontri con le famiglie cinesi e tante famiglie cinesi ci hanno detto: io dico a mio figlio di parlare con gli italiani, fare amicizia con gli italiani, imparare l'italiano, ma loro non lo fanno.
Amici, dire la verità, sono i compagni, perché fuori dalla scuola non impariamo tanto. Gli amici più sono quelli cinesi.
Loro che pensano cinesi sempre da soli, cioè, in Cina i cinesi sempre studiare tanto tempo, quindi c'è non tempo a giocare.
Sono molto aperto, quindi gioco con italiani e gioco anche con cinesi. Tutti uguali, diciamo.
They may be getting Italian lessons, but there are also messages from back home, both for them and, in theory, their Italian classmates. Chinese government influence in a school such as this? Well, here's an example. Xi Jinping, China's leader, his Governance of China Volume 4, like a Communist Party manual. 100 copies of this book arrived just the other day. Nobody had asked for them. They came from a Chinese association, and now they're just stacked up in the school library. Apparent overseas influence is something we'll return to, but in terms of building bridges, we're invited to a tea ceremony that the Italian-Chinese communities are jointly hosting. The building features recreations of ancient frescoes which depict celestial and earthly struggles, battles imagined and real. These two sides show there is some distance still to go, with their coming together and sit entirely separately. Do you think it's interesting that in this room today, one side is Italian and the other side is all Chinese?
Ma non sono mescolati perché si vergognano. I cinesi che ci sono oggi non sono i cinesi gli imprenditori, sono persone semplici, sono operai e si sentono in difficoltà, cioè non si sentono sicuri di sé. Quindi è per questo stanno da soli. Noi si deve riuscire a mescolarli.
I asked the president of Prato province about the allegations of slave labour, intimidation and money laundering.
Allora ci sono stati problemi anche di questo tipo che ovviamente devono essere affrontati e li stiamo affrontando, sono state fatte tutta una serie di operazioni perché per noi questo ovviamente è inaccettabile.
There's enthusiasm for a coming Chinese New Year parade, with dragons for which young Chinese have been training for months. Not one of them, when I asked, said they felt entirely at home in Italy. The parade is cancelled at short notice because of fatalities involving immigrant workers in Florence. Those who've died are Romanian, but the situation facing all non-Italian workers here, not just the Chinese, is something that this trades union in Prato has taken up, demanding for its members the right to a 40-hour, 5-day week, rather than the 72 hours, 7 days a week, which can see them paid only €1,000 a month.
Of course, we always risk of being attacked by the owners, by someone sent by them. But
has that happened?
Yeah, it has happened once, a couple of years ago.
This was 2021 at a textile printing factory in Prato, with workers using the slogan "Never again" as slaves. They eventually did get better working conditions.
We are not asking for the moon. We are asking for legal, to legalize the working situation in Prato.
Vergogna, vergogna! The workers we've met make bags for the luxury goods company Montblanc and go on to picket that firm's shop in Florence. Strikes are planned. They say they're prepared to lose their jobs if Montblanc moves production. It's a price worth paying, they believe. A member of Parliament for Prato meets us outside a factory where in 2013 2 women and 5 men died in a fire. They'd been working up to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and sleeping on the premises. What is your biggest problem in Prato?
Tra I più grandi problemi che abbiamo a Prato è quello di convivenza, soprattutto riguardo agli illeciti che sono perpetrati da alcuni cittadini della comunità cinese. Noi però su questo siamo intervenuti perché il più grande fenomeno economico è il famoso apri e chiudi, cioè vengono create delle aziende finte, false, che producono fatture false e attraverso giri di fatture evadono le tasse e durano pochi anni, 2-3 anni.
Inside a building that was used as Nazi headquarters during the Second World War, the town's mayor tells us that he believes he knows where the blame lies.
If I think at 10 years ago, the situation now is better, but it's not perfect.
But they don't care about Italian law, do they?
They don't care about...
They only care about their own way of doing things.
No, they don't pay so much attention to economical, in particular taxes law. That's the real weak point.
There's money laundering.
Yeah. No, that's...
And money laundering leads to organised crime, and organised crime leads to suppression. It's all part of the same thing. You can't just say it's economics.
It's something different. You know, they are particularly interested in making money.
Government figures show rates of crime such as beatings and drugs are much higher in Prato than in neighbouring Florence. A few days before we arrive, a Sikh businessman had been attacked and killed in a textile area of Prato called Seano. You can see evidence that the police have been here, discarded tape, carabinieri. A man lost his life. He was stabbed to death. He had €10,000 on him that was stolen. Well, the police say they have arrested 2 people, but it shows what can happen in the textile district. The victim was involved in the sort of transactions that the mayor has told us happen most weekends and can involve thousands of garments being bought for cash and then transported across Europe. When we meet the local councillor nearby at her father's warehouse... Alexander?
Sí,
Yeah, and this is your daughter?
Yeah.
Does he speak English, your
No.
father?
No.
She talks mostly of community and the quality of the garments that she produces.
This is actually very expensive.
How much?
This is probably 20 plus.
She appears not to know that the murder was 150 meters from where we're standing. It takes some time before she seems prepared to acknowledge the threats and dangers that go along with working in this area. Friends had called. They're worried about her safety.
Do you have to be very careful?
For what? For that man?
To make sure that...
That news was actually a shock for everyone. It was not just, like everyone also, like people called me because it was near here. Called me like, you are in Siano, right? You be careful because something happened and I think that guy was killed, and they said, it's like everyone got very worried about like the security of the area and everything. Yeah.
But do people have to be very careful around here with that sort of thing?
I don't know. You tell me.
A Chinese journalist living in Italy says he will show us what he suspects is a so-called secret police station where Chinese go for documentation, but which is said to be involved in state-controlled surveillance.
Is there really a police station, and do they really try to persuade those people to go back to China if they oppose Chinese authorities?
When we arrive at the local Italy-China Textile Association, the one person there says that simply isn't happening.
They say that this is a police station.
No police station.
And that you work for the Chinese authorities and government.
No. I am in here the working. Yes, but this the AIC, I don't know.
It's not you?
Yes, not me. No.
And do you think the security services from China are here?
No, I don't know.
But we've been given pictures showing this building with Chinese words behind officials that read Italian contact for overseas police work in Prato. And these are pictures that have actually been released by Chinese authorities showing similar scenes around the world.
You talk the police, the Chinese government police, but here, not. Everything, every time, is aggiornamento.
What's that? Just an association?
Yeah. No government, no Chinese government.
So you say that is a lie?
Yeah, I don't know.
But the reality is that many are worried about Big Brother apparently watching.
China's influence is super pervasive. It's kind of hard to pin down because a lot of it is like gray zone activities, right? We're not talking, I mean, there is a part that is like traditional espionage and traditionally just like buying people, corrupting people, that exists. But a very big part of it is just like the kind of, if you will, soft influence where you have all these kind of groups, this fake civil society that the Chinese Communist Party puts up inside China, but also overseas, to, you know, engage local decision makers, engage local media, entrepreneurs, and just do this tell the China story well, which is obviously, you know, the only way the CCP wants people to talk about China and about its government.
There are stories of where China and Italy have already come together here. At the Buddhist temple where we saw the dragon rehearsals, we meet a Prato man who fell in love with a Chinese woman when he was working in Beijing. They moved back here together.
I thought I found home here because that's such a huge community. You have Chinese restaurants, Chinese shops, even the temples, as you can see. And I thought I would feel like back home, but no, not yet. Because they are from all the same place in China where they have their own dialect, their culture different from mine. So they're different from the Chinese that I find at home.
Future of Prato is not simple, it's complicated. Many cultures are here and Chinese community is a very big community. But still, I think that there are many things in common and a lot of work to do in order to be together and to gain each other from this community. So I'm still very optimistic.
The reality, though, is that suspicion, either of Italian authorities or those back home, means that the Chinese people we meet seem very concerned about how they're viewed. We're now with the woman who donated the Xi Jinping books to the school through her cultural association. She owns a language school and has made enough money to put her son through an expensive American private school. She invites us to dinner, where first she talks about how she doesn't always feel safe in Prato.
Mi ha scipato da 6 volte, perché prima c'era una volta, mi ha scipato, poi è rotto 3 coste. Io mi ricoveravo all'ospedale per 1 mese, perché proprio io ho paura, anche loro. Di solito noi non usciamo niente.
We move on to Xi Jinping's Communist Manifesto, which she gave to the school, and her capitalist life.
What does she hope the students will learn from those writings?
Lui è bravo, lui ha fatto tanto lavoro in Cina, anche in tutto il mondo. Secondo me lui è molto bravo, ma dipende dalle persone.
But life here for you is not communist at all.
A Prato è una cultura diversa, perché a Prato vengono da tutto il mondo le persone, quindi è molto culturale a Prato.
I think she's embarrassed that I've brought this up.
No.
It is a denial, but for me it's hardly convincing, because there is a sort of pattern developing here. We go on to watch communion at this Chinese Catholic church. The priest says he has about 200 worshippers. In China, there are almost 1.5 million Catholics, and while that may sound a lot, it is a tiny proportion, about half of 1% of the population. A Chinese Communist Party directive from 2022 states that any religion that doesn't, quote, firmly follow the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics will have no future, end quote.
我们谈论更多的应该是在普拉多，因为谈论中国不是我要说的。在中国，我只是知道近些年来信仰耶稣基督的、信仰天主教的人越来越在增加。
And the Catholics, the Chinese Catholics here, do they feel safer with their religion than they would back home?
每一个信仰和安全，不一定挂钩。在普拉多有普拉多的危险，信仰天主教和就是不信仰天主教，我感觉是同样的问题。所以我个人认为，在这里和在中国信仰，表达我们的信仰，都可以的。
Father Wang says to me afterwards that to criticize Chinese authorities would be, in his words, difficult, not dangerous. Both Father Wang, the counsellor, and the teacher are reticent. Understandably, perhaps, but despite all the efforts, it's hard to see how a community can really come together when one side is constantly looking over its shoulder at both the business boss and the bigger boss back home, and the other side is always wondering why. As we watch 3 generations of this Chinese family enjoying a night out, it's tempting to wonder how old these children will have to be before Prato becomes one.